When your stomach remains empty, the body makes physiological changes to prioritize its own survival. Now, this is a scientific fact. It is well documented that the process of fasting can lead to enormous physiological benefits, even within a small space of 24 hours. I like to maybe colloquialize the language the body may use in this particular example. The continuity of the organism is at risk. We're in trouble here, G. We are in trouble. We need to make some changes. There are 5 things off the top of my head that are going to be extraordinarily resourceful for you to remember or learn. And then we can look at what happens on the other side of things when the reproductive organs are full, what changes happen. And we've got some interesting ones, pheromone production, AR density. We'll get to that in a moment. But it is really important that you're understanding the logic in which this proceeds, because it takes logic, it takes rationality, which isn't too difficult to theorize and hypothesize about what could happen if the roles were reversed in the reproductive sense. And I'll extrapolate on what I mean by in just a moment. But let's just go through these all together. And again, these are facts. There is no argument over what I'm sharing here. So the first thing that happens is your insulin levels will drop. The body is stopping storing energy and starting to use it. This makes logical sense. In simpler terms, lower insulin equals fat cells opening up their vaults and releasing stored energy. We also have a growth hormone spike. So within the 12 to 24 hours, HGH begins climbing noticeably as insulin drops, and ghrelin, the hunger hormone, nudges it upwards. So ghrelin, if anybody's been familiar with peptides like MK677, this is what it stimulates. And in that way, you have that growth hormone production and uptake and greater recovery, everything that's associated with an abundance of growth hormones. So then you start to go to the latter stages of GH stimulation. Studies show this hormone can rise up to 2 to 5 times greater than the original baseline. And then beyond 48 hours, some research has indicated up to 1,200 to 2,000% after 3 to 5 days of fasting. So if growth hormone, if you're watching this and you still feel like you want to benefit from growth hormone, fasting is one of the most, as well as sprinting, the most effective and potent modalities in stimulating growth. You've got ketone switchover, so glucose is now running low. Liver converting fat into ketones, and these ketones, they're not just backup fuel, they're brain boosting. In fact, your brain works better on ketones. That's why people on a ketogenic diet or a carnivore diet will often anecdotally express clearer thinking, less brain fog, better memory, sharper, quicker. All these things are greatly associated with a fasting state. Of course, we've got some of the ones I'm sure you're very, very familiar with if you're a keen faster like myself: autophagy, damaged proteins, faulty mitochondria, and cellular junk getting broken down and recycled for energy. Essentially, you become ruthlessly efficient with your energy resources. The last one is resilience. So genes that make cells more resilient to stress turn on. DNA repair pathways are activated, inflammation drops, and your body essentially becomes battle ready against oxidative stress and aging. So what are these outcomes? Again, these are all scientific, objective truths. What is all of this demonstrating? What is it marketing? It is marketing that on a natural selection level, you are a harder organism to kill when your stomach is empty. In essence, dangerous mode is turned on. Okay? The individual is at risk. The continuity of the organism is at risk. And this is called a prime directive. I'll talk about prime directives a little bit later. But this is a priority the body will never compromise. That's what we need to understand. So if we can accept this as true, because it is true, I mean, the outcomes, the scientific outcomes are a known fact. Essentially, we are theorizing, we are making an assumption predicated on these facts that what the body is essentially doing is making changes to prioritize its own survival, which is a prime directive. What is true or what can be theorized of a state when your balls are full, the body makes physiological changes to prioritize your offspring. Really think about that. When your balls are full, the body makes physiological changes to prioritize your offspring. So the offspring, in essence, are at risk. When you are sexually continent, it is demonstrating to your body that you are not in a state of reproduction. So the organism here is at risk, and now the continuity of the human race is at risk. You can imagine how scary, how frightening, how alarming that is going to be to the body. So in a not too dissimilar way, when you show and share and give evidence to the body that something is at risk, it is going to make a change. It is going to make an adaptation. So these are the adaptations, and a lot of these are again predicated in scientific fact. What happens when you are sexually continent? So we'll get past the obvious here. 147% testosterone jump on the 7th day from the Chinese study in 2003. Increased sexual motivation fuels dominance and status-seeking behavior. These are all personality traits. These are all temperamental changes that an individual will experience with higher testosterone levels. And that's not to say enhanced physical traits women find objectively attractive. So high testosterone, is synonymous with higher levels of muscle mass, jawline, voice depth, etc. Let's move over here to pheromone production output. So studies on specific metabolites of testosterone, androstenone and androsterone, byproducts of testosterone metabolism, show they act as chemical signals in humans influencing female perception of male attractiveness. And this was coming from a 2001 study. Levels of these pheromones fluctuate with hormonal state. And men with higher testosterone, surprise, surprise, excrete more of them. When sperm reserves are high, the male body chemically broadcasts availability, making it more likely to attract female interest without, and this is the key, conscious effort. I believe I've coined the phrase because I've never heard this phrase before, the biological wingman. You know, you have your wingman when you go to the club, or if you go to the club. I never go to the club anymore, but in essence, you have a wingman, but it is compromised of your biology. It is your biological wingman. It is going to aid you in your efforts to reproduce. Ephemeral negative emotion. Ephemeral is the word used to describe fleeting, finite, short-lasting. So when you experience anxiety, stress, depression, or any neurosis, they will have a half-life. You become more adept at mitigating emotional influence that promotes apathy and lethargy. The outcomes of such an effect are that you bounce back with more venom. Your lag time to getting rejected, getting ghosted, failing with women is cut in half, because again, it is not conducive to the reproduction of your genes. Similarly, more AR density equals a amplified masculine trait outcome. So of course we know that there is decreased AR sensitivity, which stands for the androgen receptor, which is the expression of the testosterone hormone. This downregulates your masculine traits. AR activation also influences sebaceous glands and apricot sweat glands, so underneath your armpit and your genitals, the sources of pheromonal compounds like androstenone. It's also found in your sweat, it's also found in your semen, it's also found in your urine as well. But please, 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 guys, don't pee on women. Without their consent, I should say. Stronger AR sensitivity can literally make a man smell more potent. And this has been anecdotally demonstrated hundreds and hundreds of times with men who are continent, or even men who use artificial androgens like trenbolone. They will notice that their scent changes dramatically. Sometimes for the good, sometimes for the bad, but there is certainly a difference in the pheromones that you will excrete depending on your hormonal profile. Excessive ejaculation and porn use are associated with dopamine desensitization in the reward system, the ventral striatum, and the nucleus albumens. This has been demonstrated in a 2014 study. What are we trying to show here? That continence or sexual restraint allows your dopamine receptors to reset, making real life social and sexual interactions feel more rewarding. Therefore, you are going to have a positive reinforcement with behavior that is conducive and consistent with finding a mate, with pair bonding, with reproduction, with ensuring the survival of your genes. So again, not too dissimilar from this assumption here. On a natural selection level, you are a harder organism to kill when your stomach is empty. The other side of the coin is, on a natural selection level, you are an easier organism to reproduce with when your balls are full. In essence, attractive mode on. I was actually going to go with fertile mode on, or fertility or virility mode on. So gentlemen, this is the key. This is the key, because science is still young to this. It's still catching up. What in essence are we really demonstrating with both of these presuppositions here? Okay, so we're going to move across to the right here. When your balls are full, the body makes changes to prioritize your offspring. So this ensures the species survival, the continuity of the human race. When your stomach is empty, your body makes changes to prioritize the survival of the organism. And you can look at this as individual prioritization and the collective prioritization. There are no more important directives to the human organism than these two principles. There is nothing that supersedes this importance. It is axiomatically true. We need to ensure the survival of the species. And again, look, the body doesn't know that there are, in my humble opinion, maybe too many of us. It just knows the demonstration of of full reproductive fluids, that the species is in danger, and an empty stomach is a signal that the individual is in danger. Therefore, changes, adaptations need to be made in order to survive. No theories, facts. Speak soon.